Have a great day. That's right. You.
Ever watch? Probably shouldn't, but who's this?
last week because she was here making a presentation.
Yeah.
But they would go ahead and read
Oh,
that.
okay. So if there's people that want to sponsor an orphan that they give each month here and then,
Is she doing that?
yeah.
Well, that'll be, I'm assuming that would be part and parcel with getting the corporation set up.
Okay.
And people can still do that, but they're not going to get a tax receipt for it
Okay.
until we get a nonprofit set up.
Maybe I can just have them give me the money and then I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yep. Good morning. We're going to get started here. If I can find my place, here we go. Psalm 95. Let us come before him with thanksgiving. All of heaven is attracted to a thankful heart. So that's our first step in worship, is to think of those things that we're thankful for and come with a thankful heart before the Lord. It says, extol him with music and song. For the Lord is the great God, the great King above all gods, and in his hand are the depths of the earth, and the mountain peaks belong to him. The sea is his, for he has made it, and his hands formed the dry land. Come, let us bow down and worship and kneel before the Lord our Maker. For he is our God, and we are his people, the people of his pasture, the flock under his care. So this morning, as we come to worship with thanksgiving in our hearts, what a tremendous thought to think that we are his people, and he is our God, the God of the universe, the God that says that we could take off from the earth at the speed of light, 186,000 miles a second, for 1,000 years, and just come to the edge of what science tells us is out there. And that God is our God. And he has set his love and his affection upon you today, and we get to worship him. Let's stand this morning. Our worship team has prepared their hearts, and they're going to lead us right into his throne this morning. Let's worship.
These are the days of Elijah, declaring the word of the Lord. And these are the days of your servant Moses, righteousness being restored. And though these are days of great trials, of famine and darkness and sword, still we are the voice in the desert, crying, beware thee the way of the Lord. Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, so lift your voice. It's a year of jubilee, and out of Zion till salvation comes. These are the days of Ezekiel, the dry bones becoming his flesh. And these are the days of your servant David, rebuilding a temple of praise. And these are the days of the harvest, the fields are wide in the world, and we are the laborers in your vineyard, declaring the word of the Lord. Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, so lift your voice. It's a year of jubilee, and out of Zion's hill salvation comes. Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, so lift your voice. It's a year of jubilee, out of Zion's hill salvation comes. There's no God like Jehovah. 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 There's no, sing it again. There's no God like Jehovah. 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 Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, so lift your voice. It's the year of jubilee, and out of Zion's hill salvation comes. Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, so lift your voice. It's a year of jubilee, and out of Zion's hill salvation comes. There's no God like Jehovah. 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 Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, so lift your voice. It's the year of jubilee, and out of Zion's hill salvation comes. Behold, behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, so lift your voice. It's the year of jubilee, and out of Zion's hill salvation comes. Lift your voice to Jehovah. Yes, praise you, Jesus. Let praise be a weapon that silences the enemy. Let praise be a weapon that conquers all anxiety. Let it rise. Let praise arise. We sing your name in the dark and it changes everything. We sing with all we are and we claim your victory. Let it rise, let praise arise. see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. For fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, let faith be a song that overcomes the raging sea. Let faith be a song that calms the storm inside of me. Let it rise. Let faith arise. Let it rise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. For fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. For fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh. Isn't he a good God? Yeah. We're here praising Jesus, having a good time. And he's out there just smiling down on us going, hey everybody, this is what heaven looks like. This is what freedom feels like. So as we sing these songs, as we sing these words, just lift your praise and your focus to Jesus. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we're gonna see you break. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. 'Cause fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Give him your praise this morning. Lift it up to him. He is so worthy. This is what heaven looks like. Hey, someday we get to be with him in his presence and just do this all day long, right? Looking forward to that day. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. One more time. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we pray. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. For fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we're gonna see you break. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Whoa, we praise you. Whoa, we praise you. Whoa, we praise you. Whoa, we praise you. We give you all praise, Lord. Yeah. He is so worthy of all of our praise. So we sing our praises to him because it's his name that conquers everything. His name gives us freedom. It's by his name that we have a way to the Father. Praises. I sing praises to your name. Praises to your name. Name that's so much higher than all names. All honor to your name. Honor to your name. The name that's so much greater than all names. Be lifted up. Be lifted higher. Be lifted up. Be lifted higher. And I sing praises to your name. Praises to your name. Name that's so much higher than all names. All honor to your name. Honor to your name. The name that's so much greater than all names. So be lifted up. Be lifted up. Be lifted higher. Be lifted up. Be lifted higher. Be lifted up. Be lifted up. Be lifted higher. lifted higher. Your name is light. Your name is hope inside me. Hope inside me. Your name is love. A love that always finds me. Always finds me. Your name is life. Your name is hope inside me, hope inside me. Your name is love, a love that always finds me, always finds me. Be lifted up. Be lifted higher. Be lifted up. Be lifted higher. Oh, be lifted up. Be lifted up. Be lifted higher. Be lifted up, be lifted higher, 'cause your name is life. Your name is life. Your name is hope inside me, hope inside me. Your name is love, a love that always finds me. Always sing it again. Your name is life. Your name is hope inside me, hope inside me. Your name is love, a love that always finds me, always finds me. Be lifted up. Be lifted higher. 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 So be lifted up. Be lifted up. Be lifted higher. Be lifted up. Be lifted higher. give life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. And great are you, Lord. You give life. You give life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Great are you, Lord. You give life. You give life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. And it's your breath. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. And all the earth will shout your name. Your praise, our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. And all the earth will shout your praise, our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you. Shout your praise, our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. Everybody from the top of their lungs. And all the earth will shout your praise, our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you. Your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath. To you only. Great are you, Lord. Great are you, Lord. Great are you, Lord. And all the earth will shout your praise. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. So great and so high. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. And it's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise, we pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise, we pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise, we pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only. Great are you, Lord. Great are you, Lord. One more time. Great are you, Lord. It's the mighty name of Jesus, amen. There's no name that is greater than his name. No throne that is greater than his throne. No kingdom that is greater than his kingdom. All power is under him. All glory is under him. All spirit is under him. For he is worthy to be high and lifted up, higher than we can even imagine. But he is the all in all. Every other name. Every other name is under your name. Every other throne is under your throne. Every other kingdom is under your kingdom. You are high and lifted up. Every other power is under your power. Every other glory is under your glory. Every other spirit is under your spirit. You are high and lifted up. 'Cause you are high and lifted up. 'Cause you are high, lifted up. 'Cause you are high and lifted up. 'Cause you are high and lifted up. Every other name. Every other name is under your name. Every other throne is under your throne. power. Every other power is under your power. Every other glory is under your glory. Every other spirit is under your spirit. You are high and lifted up. Oh, so high. 'Cause you are high and lifted up. 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 So be exalted, Lord. So be exalted. So be exalted. So be exalted. You are high and lifted up. So be exalted. So be exalted. So be exalted. You are high and lifted up. You are high and lifted up. You are high and lifted up. 'Cause you are high and lifted up. 'Cause you are high and lifted up. 'Cause you are high and lifted up. Thank you, Lord. We've been singing that every dominion is under his dominion. That's the king's domain, the king's dominion. So every problem that you have this morning, everything you're facing this morning, it's under his dominion. It's under his domain. There isn't one thing, we've said this many times, but it's so true. There isn't one thing that he didn't take to the cross on your behalf. There's not one thing he missed out on. It's like, oh, rats, I forgot that one. Gonna have to renegotiate this deal. Not gonna happen. He took care of it all. So we just thank you this morning, Lord, that every problem, Lord, as we've sung this morning, we've declared it. We've declared it to be so, that all of these problems that we're faced with, Lord, that the enemy's coming against us, Lord, it's all under your dominion. It's all under your reign. It's all under your control, Lord. And we just worship you this morning. We thank you, Lord. We just rise in faith this morning with a buoyancy in our spirit and declare that these things are so. We declare that you reign above it all. And we thank you. We thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Let's give our worship team a hand. Just thank them for their great job. I mentioned first service. I'll mention it again. You know, they just lay their lives down for us. They come down here during the week and practice and perfect their craft and come in here, and we are the recipients of great praise and great worship. So thank you to our worship team.
Let's stand if we can, and we're going to just greet one another. We're going to transition here. Are you giving announcements?
I think Brian is. I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I can. This is my friend Irene.
Good morning. We are going to come back together, and I have some announcements and then some words. Okay. The women's gathering group, they have about a dozen or so women meeting already. If you want to get in on that, please contact Georgia or Grace first and third Mondays at 10 a.m. in the prayer room, which is a really comfortable room if you haven't been in there. Wisdom Keepers, they changed the date for July. It's going to be the 11th at 11:30 in the youth building. We have Margaret here this morning, spiritual direction. She will have a table out after the service if you want more information about what spiritual direction is, want to sign up, want to know if you can get involved in some way, what are the teachings like, etc. Just ask her those questions, connect with her. The VCC youth have been on a tear of fundraising. If you want to be involved, if you weren't able to buy things already, or participate in the car wash, there are other ways to give so that everyone can have funds to go to summer camp this year. And you can look on the website for more information on that. Volunteering. Most things that happen here that you enjoy, including the lights dimming and being bright, and the sound coming from the worship team, and the water running and things like that, all happen because volunteers make it happen. Mowing, trimming, all that stuff happens. Sunday school teaching, coffee connection. There are plenty of ways. Nicole said last service, many hands make light work. And we would like the work to be light and shared among many, and that way it doesn't become a burden for any one person. And it's a way for us to connect with each other and serve each other as well. So if you want to volunteer, please ask me, ask Nicole, and find out more. God's grocery giveaway. This is the week to share food. So if you want to grab some groceries, even if you don't know who it's supposed to go to yet, you feel compelled to do that, grab some groceries and take them. And the Lord, I'm confident, will show you where it needs to go. Hosting a French student. There are 23 homes needed for this summer. So if that's something you want to try, you can connect with Valerie. Her information is on the website, and you can find out more about that. Are you guys ready? I am. Let's do it. I like that enthusiasm. Okay, so if you had every blessing possible that you could think of, physical too. So you're driving the car you want, you're in the house you want, your relationship works the way it wants, you can go wherever you want to do, you can eat the food you want. In fact, you probably have somebody bringing you the food you want to eat. You have a personal assistant that can handle the mundane things like paying bills. You have all those things taken care of. Your body is healed. There's nothing wrong. You don't ache anymore. All your friends are wonderful and they're helpful. Your family doesn't argue. There's no black sheep in your family. Everyone is an angel. Your kids, they're amazing. There's never a problem with them. You never wonder, I hope they can make it through life. All your blessings, everything's answered. Would you still complain? I remember getting gifts and complaining about when it got there, or how it arrived, or that it wasn't exactly what I wanted. It didn't really work out the way I thought. My expectation for the gift was better in my mind than the actuality, the reality of the gift. That's a problem. So that's why the rumble of grumble. We complain. We grumble about the weather, politics, church leadership. Oh, not me. Worship is too loud, or it's too quiet. The flag's distracting. Okay, you've thought it. I know I have before. Watch it, Greg. Traffic. And today, much of our grumbling then is posted on our own personal pulpit, social media. Complaining is a failing common to this model. One commentator stated that grumbling comes from our agreement with something that is contrary to God's will. It's a symptom of faithlessness. And so our mouth declares our agreement with hopelessness. Given the fact that our mouths contain life and death, Proverbs 18, death and life are in the power of the tongue, our complaints become negative prophecies over our lives and situations. Boy, that's serious. When complaints, have you ever considered that me complaining about something is an agreement with a lie of hopelessness? Wow. It puts it in a different perspective than just, I'm irritated, so I'm going to tell somebody. Maybe it's, I'm irritated, so I'm agreeing with a lie that started in Genesis 3 that says he isn't really all that. And he can't deliver, so I better tell somebody and fix this darn thing. I mean, we need to be real about that. In Numbers 12, God made Miriam's skin leprous after she and Aaron talked about Moses because they didn't like his wife. This is just after the golden calf incident. And so they were complaining about Moses, and they didn't like his wife because she was from somewhere else. It wasn't from their people. What would happen if the Lord brought leprosy on those who complain today? White. Everybody gets a skin disease. Thank you. But that is just one example of how serious grumbling is to the Lord. And I mean, I've been convicted of this recently. And I still have to go and talk to the people that I was talking about because there was an account that happened and I didn't have a goal other than I was going to share my misery. Matthew 12. For out of the abundance, large quantity of something, of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if I have a large quantity of joy in my heart, what do you think is going to come out of here? Joy. If I have a large quantity of irritation in here, well, what's going to come out? Irritation. It's not going to be a blessing. If I have a large quantity of disgust in my heart about something, a disagreement, I don't like the way they do that. The lights, they need to quit dimming those so down so far. I can't see. Out of abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Matthew 12:36 says, I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. Yeah, that's painful. My words, they need some work. So if what's coming out needs some work, probably what's in here needs some work. Colossians 4:6 says, let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. Ephesians 4:29 says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths. And so the question is then, well, what is unwholesome? But only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs. That's wholesome. What is building others up according to their needs? Not my agenda, not what I think they need. And I'm just going to say, and give me grace in this, that we have words here in this church. We hear things for other people, probably more than we hear things for ourselves. We need to consider that maybe just because we heard it, one, it may not be from the Lord. Two, it may not be time to share it. Three, it's not their need. It's your need. You want to say it. So is it their need? According to their needs. So definitions, grumble. The dictionary says complain about something in a bad-tempered way. Complaint, to make a low, rumbling sound. Sounds like a growl. In the Greek, used in most of the New Testament, to grumble, complain, or mutter. To speak privately in a low voice. So if you're finding yourself speaking privately and in a low voice to someone, you're keeping a secret that's not supposed to be out there. To utter secret and sullen, cranky, sour, moody, discontent, express indignation. Indignation is unfair treatment. So I threw a bunch of of scriptures up that use this, the base root word for complain, for grumble in the New Testament. The word is gongizo, translated grumble in the New Testament. It's an onomatopoeia, to murmur or mutter, grumble with muffled undertones, murmur, grumble to show smoldering discontent, droning on in a low, constant murmur. Onomatopoeia is the formation of a word from a sound associated with what it's named. So rumble, murmur. I mean, murmur sounds like what it is, right? Murmur, 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 murmur. Sounds funny, but it's not when it comes out. Cuckoo. Sizzle. Babble. Those are all onomatopoeias, and so grumble is one of those. In the Greek, what it's called is a term imitating the sound of cooing doves. So if you think about a dove, hoo, 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 it's constant. It just kind of goes on and on and on and on. Sometimes they have a more like aggressive sound, like when they fly and they land in a nest or something. It'll be like that. It's kind of a gritty sound. But doves, the word grumble is like the sound of cooing doves. I always thought the sound was pleasant. So maybe you're seeing that juxtaposed definitions there, that I like the sound of doves. Our neighbor hates the sound of doves. It grates on her for some reason. Well, this is grumbling. So there's an attitude of constancy that happens. When a dove is cooing, it's continuing. And it will just go on and on all day long around where they live. That's what they're going to do all day. So all day you're going to hear hoo, 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 hoo. And that's what grumbling is like. The Lord hears that. In its different forms, it's translated grumble, murmur, or complain. These words portray similar heart attitudes of those we are familiar with from Israel in the wilderness. It implies stubborn, immovable, constancy, and feelings of unfairness focused on natural wants, desires, and comforts. The words carry an attitude of subversiveness, rallying to a selfish cause, and attacking the motives and character of another. This kind of complaining is not accompanied by a goal or desired outcome that one plans to work toward. It is a demand for change from the other person to meet my ideas or needs. So in Hebrew, in the Old Testament, there are many words that are used to, and they're very related words that are used to talk about grumbling or complaining. Some more serious, some have more specific definitions. But generally, rebellious, stiff-necked, stubborn, without foundation or unjustified, repetitive, worry, fret, irrational, narrow-minded, self-important, faithless. So that is how the word is used in context. Faithless, unfounded, constant. Exodus 33. For the Lord had told Moses to tell them, "You are a stubborn and rebellious people. If I were to travel with you for even a moment, I would destroy you. Remove your jewelry and fine clothes while I decide what to do with you. Take that silly stuff off and wait. Go to your room. Go to your corner, because I don't know what I'm going to do here." There was a word, it uses the word stubborn and rebellious. And I just thought it was significant that word rebellious is from the Latin bellum. And bellum is the word for war. Rebellious people. So they're rebellious against who? So they're warring against God. That's how serious that is. Ezekiel chapter 2 says, the Son of Man, he's talking to Ezekiel. God says, Son of Man, I'm sending you to the Israelites, to a rebellious, a warring nation that has warred against me. They and their ancestors have been in revolt against me to this very day. Beginning of time, people have been rebellious against God. These were his people. These were his followers. These were the people that he was leading. I just ask that as we look at these Old Testament scriptures, that you put yourself in the shoes of these people, because we're these people too. We're people that we could say, we're going to say, when God's leading us. Yeah, we're his people. We were once far off, but now we're adopted and brought near through the blood of Christ. And so we're his people. So is this me too? It's easy to look at the Israelites and go, those people. I mean, they just went through dry land for the sea. They've got, at night, there's fire over them. During the day, there's a cloud. We saw the Egyptian army all die when God let the waters close. But we're a warring people against him, his people. So where do I fit in that picture? Am I the Israelite? Am I the warring people? Am I rebellious? When I complain, am I against him somehow? Have I adopted the lie of hopelessness, and that's what I'm walking in when I'm complaining? Say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says, and whether they listen or fail to listen, for they are a rebellious people, they're a warring people, they will know that a prophet has been among them. Exodus 17, the Hebrew here for grumbled is the word yalan. It means worry, fret, and complain. And the word itself, Hebrew is interesting because even the letters of a Hebrew word, you can define the letter. It has that much significance. And so the word yalan for complain is worry, fret, and complain can be translated. The word explains itself with its own built-in commentary. And the letters to spell that word are yod, and it represents no foundation and irrational actions. That's the first letter. The second letter is lamed, shows narrow thinking and self-importance. The last letter is nun, which shows lack of faith. So that's the word translated complain. No foundation, irrational actions, narrow thinking, I'm more important than you, and lack of faith. I don't believe you can do what you say you're going to do. That's how serious complaining is. That's what it embodies in my spirit when I'm complaining. We are going to talk about some good things about complaining too. So I'm not saying that you can never say anything negative and that it's couched negatively, but there's responsibility that goes with it. So that Exodus 15 says, then Moses led the people of Israel away from the Red Sea, and they moved out into the desert of Shur. They traveled in this desert for 3 days without finding any water. Then the people complained, lack of faith, and turned against Moses. What are we going to drink? They demanded. So Moses cried out to the Lord for help, and the Lord showed him a piece of wood. Moses threw it in the water, and this made the water good to drink. The word for complain here is stronger than simply grumbling. It contains questioning whether God has the ability to deliver and provide. This was 3 days after crossing the Red Sea on dry land and witnessing the Egyptian army destroyed. 3 days. That's how long it lasted. Celebration doesn't last very long. We tend to dwell on the negative. The people complained and turned against Moses. And who did they go to solve their problem? Moses. So it brings up a sensitive point. We, in our congregation, have leadership and other people that we trust that are also leaders. It doesn't mean that just the pastor is leadership. It means that there are many leaders here that we turn to for help on various things. And we have this tendency that's described here that we'll go to somebody and we have this expectation that gets built in that something's going to happen. Then it doesn't happen according to our timeline. And when expectations meet against a timeline that I've made and the expectation isn't met, well, the timeline's now a problem because it's mine. So when we go to somebody and we have this expectation built because they're our helper, and then they don't deliver based on our timeline, then we have frustration. We have irritation. How have anybody, I have done this, gone to somebody else to talk about what the person you go to for help hasn't done? But then when you need something, you go right back to him and go, "Can you pray for me, please?" That's so fickle of us. But that's what this is describing. In Exodus, 2,000 years ago, we were the same people. So this is me, this is you, this is us. So this word explains that it's more than just discontent. It's more than not having my needs met. This is the faithlessness part. This word describes questioning God's ability, not his motives. It questions his ability. He can't do what he says he's going to do. That's what this word describes. The people complained. The people were thinking that God can't give us water, can't save us, can't give us the promised land, can't deliver on the promises that he made. Can't do it. So that's no trust. After everything that's happened, no trust, no faith, because my circumstance is greater, my expectations are different than what's happening. You're not matching my timeline, God. I thought we'd come out of here. You heard many times how the children of Israel said, "Well, did you bring us out here to die?" Back in Egypt, they didn't say when we were slaves and were forced to labor and make our own bricks. We had everything we wanted to eat. Everything is beautiful there. I know my mom would say, "Well, go back. You're on your own. Here's your bag." Exodus 17:3 says, "But the people thirsted there for water, and they grumbled against Moses and said, 'Why now have you brought us up from Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst?'" We are a bunch of 3-year-olds. The Hebrew word for grumbled, I said that one. Numbers 11:1. "Now the people complained about their hardship in the hearing of the Lord, and when he heard them, his anger was aroused. Then fire from the Lord burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. When the people cried out to Moses, he prayed to the Lord, and the fire died down." So the very person they complain against, they go to for help. Numbers 14, "The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, 'How long will this wicked community grumble against me? I have heard the complaints of these grumbling Israelites.' Then later it says, 'In this wilderness your bodies will fall. Not one of you will go to the land which I swore with uplifted hand to make your home, except for Caleb.'" Verse 23 says that Caleb will be allowed to enter the promised land because he has a different spirit and follows me wholeheartedly, it says. Caleb wants what I want. I like that. David is referred to a man after God's own heart. He wants what I want. So many times my expectation comes from, hey, God. It's not that I'm not in connection or communication with God, but I'm saying, hey, I'm planning on doing this. Could you come with me and help? Rather than, oh, God, what are you doing today? Maybe I can come help you. Yep. See what a shift that is? It doesn't mean we can't do things that we want to do, but that heart attitude is Caleb's. He wanted to do what God wanted to do. He had a grateful attitude and trusted that God would do it again. Verse 27 there says, "How long must I put up with this wicked, evil community and its complaints about me?" The word translated evil or wicked here specifically describes an evil of consumption. It comes from letting natural desires consume you. Literally, this verse says, and this is if we read it all in Hebrew and translated all the words, it would say this: "Until when or how long will this congregation be so absorbed or focused on their natural needs that they will continue," that's an important word, continue, "to refuse to move forward to the promised land?" So who was responsible for not going to the promised land? Yeah, we are. That's my responsibility. Continuing to refuse to move forward. Now that's the attitude of grumbling and complaining. Continuing to refuse to move forward. "I heard the children of Israel worry and fret, and they are fretting against me." So that's the literal of this verse. They're fretting against me, God. It's important to look at the original language here because Hebrew is an emotional language. The word "until when," when he says, "Until when? How long am I going to put up with this people?" It's the words almati. It's not an expression of exasperation or anger. I found this fascinating. He's not saying, how long are they going to... It's not irritation. It's not, these people, I just can't stand them. It's this cry of a broken heart. That's what almati means. How long? I'm hurting. How long will they not listen to me? Remember the scene when Jesus is standing and he's looking over Israel and he says, "How long I've wanted to gather you as a hen gathers her chicks, but you would not." That's the same as this verse right here. How long? But you continue to refuse to move forward to what's promised. Wow, am I getting in the way of promises? By complaining? So what happens when I complain? Put these words up here just so you can take a look. These are, if you look at any one of these words, you've experienced the rumble of thunder, right? You see the lightning, but you hear the thunder. You feel the thunder. Sometimes windows rattle with thunder. The echo of voices in a canyon. Who's not played with that? Isn't that fun? The crash of waves, a jet flying overhead. The ricochet of an object bouncing off of another one, a ball, my brother's head. He could take me now, so I don't do that. Complaining may bring validation. Often when I complain about drivers, my thoughts are validated by those around me who feel similarly. This brings a sense of connection with another. People commiserate over the things that upset them. Complaining opens the door for this. Driving is a classic. Because, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't really know why people use that phrase, by the way. Because if I didn't say it, would you think I was not being honest? So anyway, so I'm the best driver out there. Okay? So, watch it. I think I'm the best driver out there. So, you should probably watch how I signal and when I signal, when I apply the brake. I know someone, and I said this in the first service, but I did not say this is not my wife. So don't judge me here, and I'm not going to get in trouble because it's not her. She's a very safe driver. I'm still better, but she's a very safe driver. But this person, a friend of ours, this person is the best at cornering. Okay? She knows, I said she. Okay. She may or may not be in this room. Anyway, the point is, this person is the cornering master, the queen bee of cornering, the goddess gifted of cornering. She knows exactly when to decelerate, when to apply the brake, how to slightly turn the corner, lean in if the road is curved at all, banked at all, and when to release the brake and gently apply the accelerator back into the straightaway so as not to harm her passengers. They never feel discomfort. That's how you corner, okay? So everyone should go to her cornering school. We've talked about this. She's going to start one. But isn't that weird how we do that? My way is the way it should be. Can we start guessing? No. Mitch is banned from guessing. But we do that. We think our way or the highway. It's my way. I've done this. I've driven. I've been driving for 50 years. Maybe not 50, but legally for 40. So, I mean, people should listen to me. But we have that attitude with so many things. That my way, from the lighting we have in the sanctuary, to the way the water comes out of the fountain, to what we should have for dinner, to how somebody should believe about the Holy Spirit, you name it. We have all these things built up about how it should be. And driving is, I expanded that one just because it's such an easy one for us all to see that it's silly how we act sometimes about how we drive, like we're the best. So, people commiserate over things that upset them. Complaining opens the door for this. When another recognizes your pain expressed by complaining and validates your experience, this feels good and momentarily connects. Feeling heard is extremely powerful and is a tool that does two things. It justifies and it amplifies. So a question comes from that. Do I need to be justified? So when I complain, am I doing it because I need to be justified somehow? And if so, why? And then the second question would be, what will happen if this complaint is amplified? Steph and I were watching a movie one time, and there was a couple ladies up on a porch, and another lady walked by. How you doing? Hi. She walked on, and then the one lady starts talking to the other one on the porch and says, she's, and says all this stuff about her, but you didn't hear it from me. Well, she did hear it. How often do we do that kind of thing where we tell something in secret, but it isn't secret? It doesn't stay that way. And if it's a complaint and there was no there was no goal in mind, there was no action, there was no self-accountability, well, it's only going to harm people. And like that one slide showed, it's only going to have a reverberation effect. It's only going to ripple. It's only going to keep going. It's only going to do damage farther. Throw a rock in the water, and guess what? There's ripples that come out for quite a while, depending on how big the rock is. Okay, sharing complaining can be a form of social bonding. We've decided to put one of these stations out in the lobby, and we think that we'll only need one number. And then it will provide an example. So every time you walk by the hole in the ground, you will remember Brian. Remember that sermon he had on complaining? Yeah, I'm not complaining. Yeah. How are you doing today? Oh, fine. Not saying anything. I'm not going to talk. That's not going to be me. Being around people who complain a lot can make it more likely and acceptable to increase the airing of grievances from others. Too much complaining can deepen negative feelings and moods, make you feel helpless, and grow a negative outlook on life. Most people do need to express frustrations from time to time. People need to talk to loved ones about feelings, both positive and negative. They need to seek the opinions of those they trust when facing difficult choices or situations. These actions can be positive, but it can also often involve sharing stories about problems. Sometimes that slips into excessive complaining or gossip. And that's a sister word and a sister action to complaining. Complaining can often turn into gossip. A healthier form, for example, of complaining would be brainstorming solutions. What do we do about this? Signs I'm complaining too much. These are just some of them. Air negativity, but don't try to find any solutions. Ruminate, we've talked about that before, continuing to think about the same thing, rethinking about the same thing, ruminating about past events. Experience a lot of regrets and wishes about redoing things, which is not in your control, right? Frequently experience feelings of anxiety, usually irritable after complaining. That's a good one. We kind of think that if we complain, we're going to feel better. Got it off my chest. It never works. Have a negative mood and outlook on life. Talking about problems makes you feel helpless or hopeless. And that's the real result of complaints with no accountability, no goal, and no action involved. That's really what happens to it. Despair, hopelessness. Do you notice friends starting to avoid you or not including you in activities? Are people finding excuses to cut your conversation short? Ding, 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 ding. That could be, here's your sign. That could be a reason. Could be one of those things that's telling you, I'm complaining too much. I need to figure out what this is about. So what we call complaining can be venting, commiserating, sharing, whining. Why we say we do it, we're just being honest. Need to get this off my chest. I want to just gain understanding and get your opinion. I want to check my thinking. I want to get validation from others, or I want to gain agreement. Notice how positive all those things sound. And most of those could be positive. I want to check my thinking. I want to gain understanding or another opinion. Those are valid reasons. The urge to complain is part of humanity. Research and experience show that our innate motivation is to return any discomfort to comfort. We search for the antidote for not feeling well, having pain, and not getting what we want. Physically, it can be working out, hiking, playing a sport, creating art, or cooking. Emotionally, it can include anger, frustration, crying, becoming a hermit, complaining about what happened or the way things are. The urge to complain comes from dissatisfaction from something going on in life, often coupled with feeling of inability to change it. So why do we do it? Nature, habit, sometimes ego, discontentment, lack of control. What we really want, if you think about it, when was a time in history when there was no complaining? I'm not thinking of your history or my history. In the world's history, since creation, there's been only one time that there was no complaining, and that was before Genesis 3. Nobody was being chased by animals then. There weren't weeds to pull in the yard. There was no need to go find what to eat. There was no search for how do I connect with the Lord. He was there, face to face. So we want to return to Eden. We want to get that. Even if we're not believers, we want to get back to that. We want to return to a state of homeostasis. Everything is good. No pain, no problems, no irritation. Everything is just the Father's will, and I'm just here accepting it, loving it. He's taking care of every single need. And so that's what we're trying to get to. And we think that complaining is going to get us there. The children of Israel cried out about water. Well, I mean, the problem was solved. They got water. But the way they went about it was they grumbled against God and didn't think he could do it. Faithlessness. So that obviously wasn't the answer. So your brain on complain. Here's what happens inside. So we have this organ inside our brain called the hippocampus. And there's two of them, one on each side of the brain. And it's used for, it uses all of the senses. Every sense that we have, smell, feeling, hearing, everything, taste, to help process and store memories. Transferring short-term memory to long-term memory and form memory maps of our surrounding for spatial navigation. That's just beautiful. So if I didn't have a hippocampus, can you imagine how long it would take me to cook dinner? Days. Because I wouldn't know where the pots were. I wouldn't remember how to turn on the stove. I didn't know where the spices were. I wouldn't even know we had a refrigerator until I saw it. So the beauty of our design is that God has enabled us to make these maps in our brain to make it easier in areas. And that's what happens with the hippocampus. It's designed to connect with our senses and our repetition to make it easier for that same thing to happen again faster for me. So you think, so you are. That's a really quick way to remember this. So the more I think about something, the easier it is for me to think about the same thing next time. So if my go-to is getting angry, guess how easy it is going to be for me to get angry next time something irritates me. It's going to become my identity. It's going to become my go-to. That's what I'm going to do every time. And eventually I'm just going to feel justified that that's just who I am. It's a lie. We've just created this neural network in our brain because we kept doing the wrong thing, and our brain doesn't know the difference. It just says, oh, he needs to think about that. Okay, I'll make it easier. That's what happens with complaining. The more frequently you complain, you increase the likelihood of thinking negative thoughts later. Negativity bias. I'm hardwired for frustration. Barbara Fredrickson, she is a researcher who came up with what's called the broaden and build theory in positive psychology. Positive emotions. For example, you might be having a great day at work or at church, and someone makes an offhand comment or does something that you find irritating. Happens, right? You then find yourself stewing over those words for the rest of the day. Normal? When you get home, someone asks you, hey, how was your day? How was work? How was worship? How was church? And you reply that it was terrible. Even though it was overall quite good despite the one negative incident. The bias toward the negative leads us to pay much more attention to the bad things that happen, making them seem much more important than they really are. So they can include relationships, decision-making, the way we perceive people. Studies show that when people in a study group were given information about another person, they were given a couple of negative traits and then a whole host of good traits about the person. But their overall concept of the person without ever meeting them was negative. So, psychology and facts about complaining. Complaining is common in our society. Examples of complaining tied to a positive goal or outcome would be, instead of just saying, hey, I really don't like how they do this at church. I think that we should do this for announcements. I could say, hey, can I talk to you about announcements? I had this idea that maybe, could we do them this way? Would that work? Why do we do it the way we do? I find myself losing track of what they are and when it kind of interrupts the flow. What can we do to make that different? Is that important? So I've done three things there. One, I have complained. I've said I'm irritated about this. Two, I've taken responsibility. I feel this way, and asked for a check. Is that how the reality is? Number three, what can I do about it? So there's a goal and action. I got it off my chest. I said something about it. But two, I took responsibility for it. So saying it, personal accountability, and a goal, followed by an action of some kind. Not that everybody else has to go do, but that I would do. A complaint sometimes results in a change that's good. Complaining to others can result in gaining a new perspective or understanding for myself, and complaining can rally people around a cause. And sometimes that's needed. Some negative things. A half hour, this is shown in studies, a half hour of complaining every day physically damages a person's brain. I don't know if you've ever heard the term neurogenesis. The brain is designed to change and grow and expand wherever it's needed. The hippocampus is just like that. It's designed to get bigger so that we can communicate faster and easier on positive and good things. But it will shrink if we concentrate on negative things. It's much easier to build networks around negatives than it is around positives. It takes effort for us to do that. We're trying to return to Eden all the time. So whether you're the one griping or you're the one listening, exposure to negativity peels back neurons in the hippocampus, the part of the brain used for problem solving and cognitive function. Over time, complaining becomes a habit, and if you're surrounded by complainers, then you're more likely becoming one. It's important who we surround ourselves with. 1 Corinthians 10, for I do not want you to be ignorant of the fact, brothers and sisters, that our ancestors were all under the cloud. They all passed through the sea. They were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and the sea, and they all ate the same spiritual food and drank the same spiritual drink. So they had the same things happening. This whole group of people, I forget what it was, 1 million or so people, they experienced the same thing. They were all there in the camp. They all had this stuff happen to them. But they had different emotional responses. Verse 6, now these things occurred as examples to keep us from setting our hearts on evil things. So we have to ask, if I'm complaining, what's my motive? What's starting this in me? Is this an expectation that's not reasonable, that doesn't match what God's is? Is it selfishness? Is it hopelessness? Do not be idolaters as some of them were, and it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in revelry. Then it says later in the verse, and were killed by snakes, and do not grumble as some of them did, and were killed by the destroying angel. They all went through the same thing, yet some of them grumbled. This word, gogizo, the sound of cooing doves, smoldering discontent. It's a droning in a low, constant murmur. I mean, that's what grumbling sounds like. It's this thing that just doesn't go away. It just keeps going and going and going, and it reverberates and ripples and keeps having an effect. Have you ever been around someone who seems to complain about everything? Are you that person? How does it affect you when complaining happens with no apparent direction or purpose toward resolution? Our common reaction is to avoid people like this. How often have you experienced this and told someone else about the experience, as in, so-and-so is always complaining, they're so hard to be around? Jude, verse 10, yet these people slander whatever they do not understand. So sometimes my complaining, my slander, my up against something is something I don't understand. I remember being in camp one time as a kid, and I used a word that I shouldn't have used. I was calling other kids this, and I'm not going to say the word. But I was calling people this, and a counselor came up to me and he goes, Brian, do you know what that word means? And I said, no. And he told me, never said it again. So sometimes what we do is out of not understanding. So before we speak a word, we should probably understand what we're saying. Lies. Not every thought that enters my head is my own. That's true. Now, it's in my head, so sometimes we think that it's ours, but sometimes it is a trick. Sometimes it is a temptation from the enemy. What did Satan say in Genesis chapter 3? He said, did God really say not to eat from the trees in the garden? Not only did he question God and put it in their heads, but he twisted the words too. He changed it. So, not every thought that enters my head is my own. I am all alone in this world. No one cares about me. God is cruel and the source of pain. God doesn't love me. I mean, these are things the children of Israel were saying, and things that we say too sometimes. I've made too many mistakes. Don't deserve it. Okay, so some solutions and takeaways. As shown in Numbers, the lack of gratefulness for the Lord's provision, even a minimizing or lack of counting the rewards and blessings of everyday life, is the kind of complaining that is unwarranted, unhealthy, and doesn't improve anything. It becomes a cycle, a habit that leads to despair. So, gratitude. There are countless verses that talk about how we should think, what we should think on, renewing of our mind. James chapter 1 says, don't be deceived, my dear brothers and sisters. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadow. He chose to give us birth through the word of truth, that we might be a kind of first fruits of all he created. So, if you go sit under a tree in the sun and you have shade, wait an hour and you won't be in the shade anymore.